Anything, baby, just let me get next to you. And I'll say,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem, Bowen. I am so glad to be with you once again. One of the greatest things about doing this show is really sharing some of the more dynamic stories that we hear from community members, and the fact that we have so many of you that when I see you in the street, you're saying, hey, I listen every Sunday, and if I miss it, I go back and I watch it on one of the social media platforms. And I'm so thankful and so grateful that you guys have invested this time, that kind of time with me on this journey. And I want you guys to know that we've got some really exciting, and I say that, I would say interesting. I'm not going to say exciting. We have some very interesting stories that we're going to be hearing from very soon that are coming. And I'm excited about what we're going to do. And I'm going to give you just a quick story, a quick idea of what it is that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks. Actually, over the next month, we will be having various individuals that are in here, families. I want to talk to some families that have lost loved ones. And I was talking with one of my brothers, Wesley Willis. We know that he lost his son recently. And he reached out to me. He says, hey, these stories need to be told. And it was funny because I was having the same conversation with someone else. And so today, after today, so for the next 4 weeks, the next month of Sundays, you will be having some very just powerful conversations with families. I want to talk about what the aftermath of those families. I had a short conversations today with Miss Tamara Tucker about how her life was changed with the violence that she experienced in the loss of her daughter. And oftentimes we are privy to the impact immediately, but we don't have an opportunity to see how the loss or gun violence really impacts those families and how families have to change and function differently. So we have some amazing people that we're lining up to be able to have these conversations. Sharice Steele Phillips, you are the first one that I see, the first name. There are other people in the social media stream, but you are the first name that I see. You say you've been missing the show. So glad to have you. And I'm sure that you'll be on a bird sometime soon to somewhere else in the South. We're going to have to talk to those kids, let them know that they need to let their mama be for a little bit. But I guess it's probably breaking down the doors, trying to get down there and see that new grandbaby. Congratulations on that. So I'm excited about what is getting ready to happen, because what we've seen in the city of Saginaw, and I'm going to talk about this in just a little bit. We're going to have more depth conversations about it over the last week or so, just shortly over a week, a little bit over a week. We have seen 3 murders that have taken place in about a week's time. And we have become, to me, it seems as though the community is becoming numb, or it is no longer as horrific. It doesn't impact us the same way because we just feel like, oh, this is what happens in the city in the summer. And so I want to have some conversations with my people. Come on, Village. I need you to get everyone in here. Let's have these conversations. Let's talk about what we're getting ready to do. I've been talking with my brothers from Help. And we're really getting ready to hit the streets and get out there and have these conversations, talking with people, boots on the ground. And it's important. And we're going to take our communities back one street at a time. We have been perfecting a plan, and some people are like, let's get action now. But if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So we wanted to make sure that what we do is strategic. It is for a long-term impact. It is going to be step by step, methodical. It's going to be engaging. We need all of the community. And this isn't a help thing. This is a community thing. So we've been having conversations with our city manager and our mayor and our police and our community organizations and some of our pastors and churches. It really is going to take a complete and total impact by the entire community. If you've ever seen a show, there's a show called All American on Netflix. And it was interesting because I saw the city of Saginaw in that perspective. And, you know, it took just one person to stand up. And then the community stood behind them in order to stand up and take back our streets. Come on, y'all. Y'all know, we know these young brothers and sisters that are running around here. We know who are the perpetrators of this violence. There's no way someone can get shot in a crowd of people and nobody has any idea of who it is. People aren't just, you know, when you're at a stop and shop, we used to call it stop and get shot as a kid growing up, but you're at a stop and shop and someone gets murdered. There's some people who have seen these things. And, you know, we like, hey, we're not going to say anything. We're not getting involved. We don't want nobody to come after us. But the fact of the matter, every time your silence buys those perpetrators of these crimes additional coverage and space for them to continue this thing. And we are being held hostage in our own communities. Our children are not able to go freely and play at parks like we did when we were growing up. And so it's time for a change. All right. So Kimberly Austin Bulls. Hello. Jeff says hello as well. He's driving at the moment. Happy Sunday, everyone. Kim, put him to work. She is one of the funniest people on this planet. But let me tell you, sister, when it's time for Kimmy's tacos, y'all better order up. Caramel cake, order it. Sister, don't be playing. So I'm glad that you guys are tuned in. We're going to talk in just a minute about something amazing that CAP is doing, something that I'm really excited about that is coming up and taking place. But before we do that, I'm going to give a shout out to my producer, Matthew, a.k.a. White Soul.
What up, though?
He's... Okay, we're gonna have to help our brother. He said, "What up, though?" Okay, I have another friend that is their greeting that they give me every single time I talk to them. What up, though? And so we got to help him with that tone to make sure you get it. Ain't what up, though? It's what up, though. You got it. Okay, all right, we're going to work on it. But we're so glad. Let's like, tag, and share this conversation with others. Let your family know that we're getting ready to have this conversation. As I think about it, hey, you know how we do this? We talk about what's on my mind. Matt, you got a fan out there. Sharice Steele Phillips says she just loves you. You know, the thing that I like about Matt, and this is, and I'm honest like this, and I got a few other friends. I like white people who know that they white. You know, I mean, and he comes in here and we joke around and stuff. But Matt is from the D, actually. Y'all, you'd be surprised. You sit and have a conversation with him. My man is from the D. He spends more time around us's than most of us's. But what I love about Matt is he is learning the conversations that we have off air and before we start the show or after the show. He has a real desire to learn and to be more culturally aware and culturally astute, and I appreciate that from him. And so y'all know I'm trying to educate my brother. I'm gonna help him out. Some other people like, oh man, Matt is in trouble. No, Matt is in good hands. So Matt, I appreciate you continually making sure that we have a way to communicate with those that are in the community. And we're going to do what we need to get done. So let's talk about what's on my mind. All right. I'm sure y'all knew I had to talk about this. And I hate that some of you are in cars and driving, but if you're listening and you have a comment or you have something that you can throw in the chat, I want you to by all means take the opportunity to do so. But we want to talk about number 45. Number 45 had an assassination attempt. And I'm not laughing. I'm just like, it's crazy, the political season that we're in. But number 45, our previous president, our former president, number 45, Mr. Trump, there was an alleged, the gun was shot. There was an attempt on his life. There was an assassination attempt. Yeah, I got you, Sharice Steele Phillips. She said, hey, the tagline of your show is no chasers, no filters, give it to me straight. Yeah, but you know, when you're talking about number 45 and these presidents, you got to be careful because I won't have anything to be straight chasing and no filter on. So I got to be somewhat careful. I'm going to walk with some grace, but I'm going to be honest about my thoughts here. So number 45 was at one of his rallies. And I see you. Thank you, Stacy Crosby, who said no comment. She's probably praying in this moment. Please don't let my brother lose himself. And so many of you, I thank you. I thank y'all for all the prayers. Because those of you who know me know that I am really an open book. And so when I talk, I really speak my truth, what I think and how I feel. And absolutely, Melissa Johnson Hayes says thoughts and prayers. She said to him, but we're going to pray for the brother. All right. But anyway, so number 45, there was an assassination attempt, is how it's being reported. The shooter was on the roof of a nearby building. And he shot at Mr. Trump, who, and I need my listeners to understand this. It's not like you're president, you have Secret Service, then you're no longer president and Secret Service leaves you open. No, that is a national security threat to have any of our former presidents unprotected. And so we need to understand that every single president that is yet alive, when they leave the Resolute desk, they are yet given security covered. So they have Secret Service that are with them. These are men and women who put their life and their integrity on the line to protect and to serve. Because if either of these individuals were ever assassinated after the office, that is a national security risk, threat to national security, or if either of them, and this is probably the bigger one, were ever kidnapped to some degree, it would be a horrific stance for the United States of America. So I say that concerning all of our former presidents and vice presidents that were there, and all on down the line, they all have some type of clearance, because we understand that you become a value to foreign workers and foreign bodies. They look at that as opportunity. So we have to protect those who are out there, right? So there was a shooter on a roof nearby. And I guess it was an assault type rifle, an assault type rifle that they were using. And this individual, I guess, shoots. And when he shoots, he misses Mr. Trump. He grazes him on the ear. But there was a casualty to this shooting. So this was not, we're playing with blanks. That's, kind of hoax, not at all. But, it's interesting. So the Secret Service shoots and kills the individual that was, I guess they said, 20 feet, a couple dozen feet away from where they were. I don't understand this. And I'm speaking this, even listening to experts in security and those who have worked or have managed the Secret Service, that this is a very weird situation, that there would be a building that was open that was not secured. I certainly remember and have been amongst both President Clinton and President Obama, and in their presidencies, being in their presence, the closer that you were, the clearances and the checks that took place, the buildings and surround that's a part of the problem when they decide who's going to go, where they're going to go, because it has to be a place that they can truly secure and make sure that these individuals are safe. So it's interesting, and I'm not the only one saying this, that these spaces and buildings were not checked and were not secured even during the time of this. They get in early, secure the perimeters, secure the place. People that are going to be close, you're screened. Trust me, they're screening, they're checking phone calls, they're bouncing them off. And I'm telling you the truth. They're bouncing and picking up cell calls, and any conversation you think that your conversations are safe, let a president come in town and you'll know that everything that they're pinging off of cell towers, listening to conversations, making sure that people are not ill will toward the individuals that are coming. They're checking off these threats. Yes, everything that I'm saying is in reference to the assassination situation. Yes, it absolutely is. And so as we look at this, I need you all to understand. And I know a couple of people who are in the Secret Service or government agencies that are a part of this, the intel that protects our presidents. And so this situation is very different. And we've seen so many people say that this situation is very different. And there's a lot to be desired. Now, I've said that, and I'm thankful that he was not killed. Our thoughts and prayers are out to the individual who was the individual that actually received the bullet and no longer is here. I know our thoughts and prayers with their family. I know that there is a GoFundMe. I think the last time I checked, it was at about over $2 million. But no amount of money can really repay a family member for the loss of someone that they love. So, with that being said, okay, uh, there's two thoughts that I want to say here. My first thought is that when I think about this, I think about the rhetoric that has taken place, the whistleblowing that has taken place, the really fight to keep AR type guns, assault rifles, and all of these other things flowing through our communities, on our streets, and sooner or later. And I want to be very careful on how I say this because I don't want to make it a joke. But the reality of a situation is that sooner or later, you're going to be a victim of the things that you promote and you create. When you speak on people and talk about how if you're not elected, that violence is going to erupt. And, if you become president, what happens? There are people who really love this country. And I say that in regards to this, and I'm not saying that he's a patriot. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that when you threaten the institutions of this country, there are men and women who love this country, men and women who love the fact that we are the greatest of the democratic nations. And when your rhetoric begins to threaten, if you become elected, that this might be the last election for a president, or even putting people in those thought processes, there are a lot of people who are willing to fight for our freedom, just as there were people who were willing to fight for our freedom in the first place. And so whether it's right or wrong, we have to be careful on the conversations and the types of things that we say, and that we are not inflaming people or causing rhetoric to be out there that causes people to think that this is okay. And so I denounce violence at every turn, whether it be against my friends or my enemies. I don't want anyone to suffer violence. And as I said before, thoughts and prayers to the individual who lost their life. But you got to be careful about what you say. Because just as you have the ability to rebel rouse those who vote for you, you also have a tendency to do the same thing on the other side of that aisle. Okay, now that is that. Now there's a third thought, and I'm going to say something that someone else said, and I'm just curious as to your thoughts and your opinions. And I'm sure that many of you have been waiting for me to get to this point. Because when I didn't see it. I was actually on a phone call, and I saw it in replay. And my thought to myself was, is this a real situation? Was this staged? Like, how do you get that close to one of our two top possibly elected officials, a former president? How does this happen? And, there are people, and I'm going to say this, and I know people are like, you shouldn't say that. Well, this is straight talk. And there is a disclaimer that comes on after I'm here that my thoughts and opinion are mine and not the radio stations. And I'm just throwing out there because I've heard these conversations. Is this real? Is this, something that is made up? Are we trying to elicit an angry response from a base that has before resorted to violence, beating up police officers, going into the Capitol building? Like, what was this really? And so I'm praying that the investigators have an opportunity to get down to the heart of the matter. I'm not sure exactly what we'll find out about the situation, But what I will say, and I'll say this to all of my American brothers and sisters, this situation that we're dealing with is not a red thing. It's not a blue thing. This is really a red, white, and blue thing. This is an American thing. We are embarking upon having our young men and women going to Paris to represent our nation among some of the best athletes in the world. And they're going to be on a world stage where back home, the safety of one of the two candidates for representation as president, life has been, in the eyes of the world, has been threatened. That someone was able to actually graze him and hit him if it's on the ear. And so this becomes greater than just what we're talking about. It becomes about how do we look in a world view perspective. It becomes, does this also jeopardize the safety of those young men and women who are on foreign soil supporting our nation and representing our nation? And so whatever it is, I pray Democrat, Republicans, Independents, Green Party, that we would be very conscious about the rhetoric that we're using, that we tamper down on the violence, that we tamper down on the craziness that has been happening. I pray that Number 45 and his constituents would realize that words do matter. And I believe that what we see and what we saw, if this is a real situation and this is authentically an assassination attempt, is the fact that we are seeing that words do matter. We have been talking about one of the issues with gun violence, and one side of the table often says that it's not about the guns, but it's about mental health. Well, knock, knock, who's there? Our nation is full of folks who are not well. We saw this, and this was exacerbated through the COVID crisis, and it's continually been a situation that we have seen this show up over and over and over again. And so I began to say, you know, you're absolutely right. We got a whole bunch of people that are sick. So why make more assault rifles and guns that are able to do some serious damage more available? We just recently here in Michigan, in Detroit, had a mass shooting. It is time for us to have a real serious conversation, one about mental health. Yes, that's a real conversation that needs to take place. Are we really supporting and providing those institutions that support those who are not well with the services that are necessary? In my opinion, in a great nation like this, those services should be free to everyone who needs them, because our lives depend on it. Number two, we have to have a real conversation about certain types of firearms that are on the market. We've got to have some, as we have been doing, and thank you for our Michigan legislature for passing some common sense legislation. These things are necessary in order for us to be able to stand a fighting chance. It never makes sense to have more guns in the United States than we do American citizens. What planet does that make? We have more guns than any other nation in the world, all those nations combined. So here we are. Number 45 this is going to take us right to this next situation. Thank you, A.B. Brooks. Antonio Brooks, he says, mental health and substance use disorders are a real thing. And if we ignore them, they'll come right to our doorsteps. So those of you who have the ability, to our legislative officials, to our community organizers, to those individuals who have a voice and a platform, it's time for us to really begin to hone in and to make sure that we are addressing the issues, pushing for common sense legislation as it relates for gun violence and guns and those things. I am a gun owner. I'm a licensed CPL carrier. I love shooting guns. I grew up as a young individual who was taught how to do those things effectively. We were not always just allowed access to them. They were kept away and locked up. So there's some basic things that parents need to be responsible for. We saw some groundbreaking rules set with what took place down in the outskirts of Detroit, with them being able to, for the first time, really go after parents who are negligent in taking care of the mental health of their kids. So more of these things need to take place. All right. So that is what it is. I'm done with that. Now, the other thing is, and this is, oh God, we've talked about number 45, but I also need to talk just really briefly. We're going to get to the turn of the conversation, but oh, my boy, Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, what's going on? Friends, family, countrymen, and I told you all this before, after the debate. I'm bothered by the fact that Jill Biden, his wife. I'm bothered by the fact that they have allowed this to go on and no one has said anything. So he has this major press conference that comes up, and leading before the press conference, he was also doing an address, I think, to the United Nations, which he was getting ready to introduce the Ukraine's president, and he referred to the Ukraine's president as Putin as he introduced him. He did, in fact, catch the fact that he made a mistake. Mistakes happen. And Ukraine's president, he then made a joke about it. But there are some serious, before I was kind of like, you can't, just because a person is older doesn't mean that they can't do a job. And I wanted all of my seniors to get mad and like say, hey, don't talk about old people. We can't talk about gay people. We can't talk about black people. We can't talk about these people. You can't talk about old people. This is no longer that conversation. This is a real conversation about what is a nation to do. We are, if you don't understand it, a nation in crisis. We are getting ready to have an election that is so polarizing. No one likes either of the candidates. The candidate that has the least ethical standing, some might argue, is leading, I think, in the polls. And then we have our current president who has access to the button and is in charge of making decisions. Then he not only does that, but I think later on in his big press conference that everybody was waiting, he did look more spirited. He did look more alive. He was coached to do this. And so I can see some of those things, but he then, I think, refers to President Trump as his vice president. I was like, what is going on here, America? What is happening? We've got to begin to do some things differently, all right? It's important for us to have those things. There is a block party that is coming up. I'm moving on. There's a block party that is coming up here in the city of Saginaw on this coming Wednesday. This Wednesday, I believe, is the 17th. It's going to take place from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. over at the Mission in the City Park, which is right there on the corner of 6th and James Street. There's also going to be events, and they'll be playing chess at the McNair Coughlin chess thing. CAP is bringing the community again. I think this is the second annual, if I'm not mistaken. So there will be fun, food, and fellowship. I want everyone in the community, when we do these types of things, let's all come out in the community together. Friday Night Live has also started. We had week 1 down. This coming week is Latin night. Let's make sure we take advantage and enjoy and build up these events that we have in our community. And so this block party is one of those things. There's going to be great information. If you are a community resource or a nonprofit, you can get a table for free out there. But it is going to be so many fun things for the kids. Balloon games, water balloon tosses, and cotton candy, popcorn, all those things. Cotton candy, sweet and go. Let me see your Tootsie Roll. Remember that back in the day, y'all? So I don't know, that just popped in my head. But let's get out. Let's enjoy ourselves. Let's enjoy one another. Let's make this a summer to remember. It started off kind of tough with all of the violence that's taking place, but we're going to take care of that too. So we're going to get mamas and big mamas and grandmamas and all those other people out there together, and we're going to rebuild this village, and we're going to do it one community at a time. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be back with my guy, Glenn Stevens. He's in the house on today. We're going to talk a little bit about the aftermath of the Memorial Cup, and then they got some things that are going to be happening as we move forward. Let's stay, don't go away. We'll be back with more Straight Talk.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
Cannonball! Split Splish splash, Mid-Michigan. Are you underwater in your old ride? Ryan Wasik here for Belwasik GMC Buick, your only local Buick dealer and home of the lifetime warranty. If you're going off the deep end in a car you hate, bring it to me, and I'll give you up to $5,000 more than Kelley Blue Book value, based on the price of the car you pick. At Belwasik GMC Buick, we're all about affordability. Treading water in your old ride, even if you owe more than it's worth. My trade payoff assistance program is like a life raft. We help you get way more for your old ride and drive a nicer, newer car you love. My For the People trade-in process swims upstream. So if you're sinking in a car that's stinking, bring it to me. And you can get up to $5,000 more than Kelley Blue Book value, based on the price of the car you dive into. But hurry, a deal this good will dry up soon. I'm Ryan Wasik, and I'm your dealer for the people. See all the cars at RyanApproved.com. That's RyanApproved.com.
Credit requires bank approval. Negative equity may be refinanced. Kelley Blue Book is a registered trademark of the Kelley Blue Book Incorporated. Offer absolutely ends July 31st, 2024.
Attention, golfers. Tee up for this year's Core 4 Invitational, taking place at the Sawmill Golf Club Tuesday, July 30th, powered by Branham's Jewelry. The Core 4 Invitational is a 4-person best ball event, only $250 per team. First place takes home an overnight stay and golf package at Shanty Creek Resort. Thanks to Buck Insurance, you'll have a shot at winning $10,000 in the hole-in-one contest. For more information on all the great contests and prizes, or to register your team, visit 1063thecore.com.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Hey, it's Steve Harvey, y'all. Here's what happened on the Steve Harvey Morning Show.
These are ways for the ladies to get men to stop trying to holler at them.
When he starts talking, ask, listen, I need a character with him. Will you come to court with me? I need somebody to tell, will you come to court right then?
I'm sorry. Before you ask me anything, can you help me lift my car off my husband?
What happened?
On Kiss 107.1, simply the best R&B.
This is the KISS community page where you can find out about all of the great things that are going on in Saginaw Bay City and Midland. Praise and Worship Conference 2024 happening on July 17th through the 21st, with the 17th being Youth Night starting at 6:30 to 8:30. Thursday night is Honoring Founders Night. Speaker Pastor Audrey Parker at 6:45. Friday night, Breakthrough Night with Speaker Bishop Wesley Wiley. And Sunday morning, praise and worship service, speaker being Apostle Patricia Wiley, happening at New Christ Community Church, located at 3302 Grant Street here in the city. Houghton Jones Neighborhood Association presents Fight the Blight Cleanup, July 19th and 20th, starting at 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Looking for volunteers to do raking, bagging, edging, cutting grass, cutting dead trees, weed eating, loading blight into dumpsters. You can report to 1708 Johnson Street here in the city, or contact 989-752-1660. Heart of the City present Ecstatic About STEAM Day Camps, all inclusive. Create the future, starting Saturday, July 27th and every other Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. Located at 804 South Hamilton Street, Old Town Saginaw. Check-in and on-site registration starts at 12:30 p.m. 40 individuals admitted each week. Community organizers, please submit your events at least 2 weeks in advance to kisswtlz.com.
It's Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on Kiss 107.1.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Straight Talk. We are back for a second half hour as we continue to have conversations that are going to impact us. This next conversation that we're going to have, it's one of those that you may not want to sit through this conversation, but you need to sit through this conversation because it really impacts infrastructure in our community. I'm sitting here with Glenn Steffens. You can see him, his beautiful face, young. There you go. We're going to make sure that they get a good, clear view of you. And he is here. He is the director of STARS, our Saginaw Transit Authority. And so we want to make sure that I want to know, because you were here before the Memorial Cup, and I've had a lot of conversations with folks about the Memorial Cup, and what were their thoughts and how did it fare for them? And, we've had some mixed reviews. If you were an entrepreneur in the community, you felt one particular way, and we understand that. But if you were associated or tied to the business of the Memorial Cup, this was an amazing success in terms of the planning and the positioning and those types of things. Stars, okay, you guys were heavily involved with what was taking place as it relates to people moving and making this accessible. And people may not realize that the accessibility of this for not just the guests that came in, but also those that were here in the community. I heard you fighting in a meeting like, no, we've got to make sure our residents are able to enjoy this opportunity. Welcome once again to Straight Talk, Mr. Glenn. I just want to I'm going to let you go. Like, what were your thoughts as it relates to after, they say, is it 2020?
Either the hangover or the
yeah,
exactly. Well, you
exactly.
got those kind of those two groups, and I think Stars lands pretty much like right in the middle there.
Okay.
There are things about it was very bittersweet. One, we really wanted to see people flood to Old Town.
Yeah.
Right. We wanted to see that spirit loop that was running around the riverfront. Loaded up with people from out of town, people from in town, and see a lot of these businesses that invested money and time and staff and holding hours open late, just like everyone asked them to.
Yeah.
And
say that again. Holding hours open late,
just like they were asked to.
Just like
and
they
I
were
was
asked
one of the
to.
ones asking them too. You know, and we were putting our neck out there as well to run the services, and they were sponsored by the Saginaw DDAs, the businesses themselves, right? So that was sad to see that we didn't get that turnout there. I know we had a lot of business in the Tittabawassee and Bay Area corridors. We had a ton of activity immediately downtown by the Dow.
Yeah.
And like some trickled over into Old Town. They'd see like maybe a small group of Canadians here or there. So
people kept saying, "Have you seen the Canadians?"
Right, right.
They look kind of like us. So
yeah.
But
It's hard to tell, So we did try to rally about halfway through the week when we saw what was happening. We redesigned how the hotel shuttle connected downtown with the Spirit Loop.
So this is a change that took place once you kind of saw how things were operating.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're calling an audible. Okay.
Yep. We kind of you got to pivot on these things.
Yeah.
It's happening. You only got a number of days, and you can't just sit and watch the whole experiment go by and sometimes not change.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
So we knew that the hotel bus was coming in on one side of the Dow. A simple thing like this. The Spirit Loop started on the other side of the Dow. When we set that up, we didn't think about like the security you're going through and everything.
Yeah.
Once people go through security, they don't want to go back out. So we're like, okay, let's rethink this. Let's have it to where we can start peeling them off from the hotel shuttle as it comes in from the Tittabawassee corridor and try sending some to Old Town. We needed a draw. I've talked with a lot of business owners and the DDA, DSA, the city too. And one of the things we've come down to is we didn't really have a draw down there. We didn't have a coordinated marketing effort, if you will. The access was there. The businesses were there, but there weren't an active presence to pull people there.
Let me say it this way. When you walk out of the Dow Event Center or you step to the Dow Event Center, you don't see anything.
Right.
I mean, and if you're not a diehard hockey fan who's going to I want to have this entire experience, what are you coming there for?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's the downside.
And there's no hotel.
And there's no hotel in the city. And
absolutely.
If there was a hotel in the city, that I think would have made all the difference. Even having 100 rooms in downtown, all those, I think those people would have been just drawn to Old Town, drawn to downtown and doing stuff there. But again, you're parked over at the Country Suites or whatever in Tittabawassee, and you're looking down the street. You see 10 restaurants. They're all chains.
We don't even have McDonald's downtown anymore.
Right. Yeah. So you're looking down there. You're like, oh, there's McDonald's. There's my lunch. There's my dinner and whatever. We just have to drive around the block to it or walk to it. So I think the convenience on there really drew them there. But here's, the people in the business community I've talked to as well since the event, nobody's I think, got seriously hurt feelings or there's not vitriol or anything. I was kind of worried about that after, we got played or something like that.
I mean, I think people feel that way.
Some,
but I mean, when you're in business, you're gonna everything is gonna be every loss becomes a lesson.
the conversations I've been having have been more like, okay, what do we do with what we've learned here? And those
There
are
you
the
go.
conversations.
That's
I
the
like to have.
conversation we need.
And so we've already started meeting with someone, say, hey, let's use this as kind of, it was a test run. We have stuff at the Dow all the time.
Absolutely.
And with the renovations to the Dow, I think Jimmy Green told us it was something like 28 or 29 extra concerts and shows for this season alone that they didn't get before. That's a lot of commerce moving through this area. So I'm sitting there watching this. We got stuff at the Temple.
So can I ask you a question, Glenn? Because you're Saginaw Transit. That means you're working with the entire county, right?
Well, we're
to some pieces, but it's city funded. But there's some pieces of what you do. You expand beyond the borders of the city. Okay.
For what I'd say for what the needs of the people in the city are.
Absolutely. In terms of
they dictate
getting people here and there is what I'm saying. When you look at this, what is the one project? If there was one project that you think the city really needs to work on for this type of thing, these events that are coming in, what would you say it was?
I mean, based on what we just saw and what we're just talking about, hotels is a really easy mark to hit. You throw in at least a couple hotels in there with a few hundred rooms, and then you've got everything you need right there. We're missing a component downtown, and lodging is what it is.
And what's interesting about this, and we're gonna get right back to the conversation on what Stars really has going on. But when we look at this and we look at people who are responsible for the planning and the development of our city, we've seen a lot of things happen. We've seen things pop up on the outskirts of the city, and in other parts of the county. But I think that it was a disservice that has been had, that over the years, that has not been one of the key functions of pushing that forward. Now, I'm saying this because there is another conversation that's happening with the medical diamond that's going to take place that brings some of those components in.
I've been pretty excited to hear that.
Yes. And so, and this is one of those examples where I always say that you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are so many elements that are a part of that are necessary. And then there's some places where I think that there needs to be some tweaking, but I think that we're on the right track and on the verge of really positioning Saginaw to be that regional city that we have loved and known in the past. Okay. So let's get back to Stars. So post Memorial Cup, what are the lessons? What is it that you would like to share as we begin to kind of get to the things you guys have coming up next?
What I hope the community sees is what potential we have and how much we killed it. Whether or not you saw what you wanted in the city from that.
Yeah.
Like Saginaw killed it. I was watching the last game on TV and they had the CHL guys and they're talking about, well, maybe we're going to have other events besides the Memorial Cup. And I looked at my wife and I said, they mean for Saginaw.
That's it.
They mean to bring more stuff here because we blew their socks off.
Say that again. Say that one more time, Glenn.
I love it when you ask me that.
Yeah, I do. I want you to say it again.
Socks off. They want to come back to Saginaw.
Because
let's be ready.
Okay, Saginaw, listen. Get your feelings, okay? Get your panties from being in a bunch. Let's shake it loose and let's understand. I said this at the beginning of this conversation. This is a rehearsal for future opportunities.
It was amateur hour for us. We're not used to this. Even at Stars, it was amateur hour. We've never run anything like this. In those days of the Cup, those 10 days, we had something to the tune of like 28,000 riders on our fixed route services. I'm not talking about the hotel shuttles, the Spirit Loop. 28,000 riders. Now, in a normal, like a holiday week, last year, the same week, 12,000 riders.
Wow.
We did over twice as much.
Wow.
Those hours we stayed open till 11 o'clock with me railing on about people having access to the Cup. They used it for that, but they also used it for their everyday lives.
Absolutely.
We were open Sunday nights until 11 o'clock.
I saw a video. I think I tagged you in the video. There was a lady who was, I guess she rides the bus.
At a gas station?
At a gas station.
I saw that, yeah.
And it normally doesn't run at a particular time. And I watched it and she was like, I got to ride the bus and it was free. So now I can get to and from work. And everyone doesn't ride the bus, but for those who did, what you all did was really a breath of fresh air for those individuals who are riders on Stars. And so I want to say thank you. That video warmed my heart. That woman and countless others.
Yeah.
And countless others we're very thankful because you now have provided access and opportunity and ease of work.
And we showed what we should be doing all the time.
Absolutely.
We don't have the funding to do that. So, if any of your listeners are out there saying, why doesn't Stars do this all the time? Because it costs millions of dollars to do.
Yeah.
We ran it for these 10 days, knowing the cup was going to be here, knowing that, that we had overwhelming support of the community to do this type of thing, but also knowing we were going to have to turn off the switch when it was done. So while we were doing it, pay very close attention to what's happening.
Get the numbers.
Yeah. Make sure we're counting it right. And at the end of it, turn around and say, this proves the point we've been saying, which is if we just had transit funded more statewide, including Saginaw, and we closed that budget gap and we were able to stay open until these later hours, is conducive to living a life. Because you can't work with a system that closes at 9.
Nothing is going to happen.
2 hours in, and you see twice the riders. You're going, okay. There's
absolutely.
It's not just about the free fares. We've run free fares before.
Absolutely.
But there was something special about that people said, you know what? I don't have to work my whole schedule around it. The other things that we saw was that Spirit Loop wasn't very popular with the Canadians, right? You know who it was popular with? The city residents who understood, wait, there's a 15-minute service loop going up and down Washington and Michigan that I can hop from one side of the river to the other.
And I don't have to worry about parking.
And I don't have to worry about parking. But also, if I'm getting around in the city, if you're a regular Saginaw City resident, and you're a rider of Stars, you got to go into the station, then back out to your stop. You're usually looking at an hour. If you wanted to jump from Michigan over to Washington for lunch and back to Michigan to work, you ain't doing it on our bus system, unfortunately. This, they could walk out, and within 10, 15 minutes, this bus coming by, pop them on the other side of the river. And so we saw them asking for more of that. We did some surveys immediately after the Cup. We reached out to the community, surveyed a couple hundred riders, and said, what did we do right? What do you want to see keep happening?
And what was the response?
We want to see those hours and weekends, and we want to see the frequency. We can't have 60-minute headways. We need 30-minute. So we've taken all of that. And right now, me and my planning team and some others at Stars are thinking, okay, let's go radical here and come up with some options. What are some very different ways we can do the routes in the city that, and some people get headaches when they hear me say that. They're like, oh God, he's going to change them again. But you got to grow.
Absolutely.
And you got to grow with the way the city is now, and also look into the future, not just what's worked in the past. And what I've seen from the Cup is, a lot of things we need to do differently going into the future. We need to stop planning in silos in this community. And I've been really invigorated to see the city and the DSA and the businesses and nonprofits and everything kind of line up and saying, if we all kind of got together before this, we could have made some things a bit different. So what can we do next time?
Am I right? Am I right or wrong? What appears to be taking place to me in the conversations in the spaces I've been in is that there's more of an aligning of services and entities. And do you sense that as well in the city?
Yeah, Stars was kind of out on its own before. When things would happen in town in the first few years I was here, it would be like, 2 days before something, they call you up. This is the first time I've been involved in something months and months before that we were able to actually plan it and execute it. And I think rather well for what we had and what we could do. Where do we again take that? The city has just learned about how to host events and how to do this type of thing.
Crash course.
We had a crash course. I called it like this great science experiment. It was the pilot project.
Absolutely.
For Saginaw to say, can we be a host? Can we be a big deal? And can people walk away from the city going, that was awesome, I want to go back? And
that was baked into the pie, that understanding that if we can do this, then we can do other things. And I know that one of the things that Mayor Moore was like, what's next? So she keeps saying, okay, so what's next?
I love Mayor Moore.
But I like the idea of being able for us to be willing to take that huge leap. Now, as we look at Stars moving forward, there's a lot that's happening because there's some things that you need the community support on. Let's talk about that because I think that's coming up next.
Yes, the first thing we've got coming up, August 6th, is Election Day. Not just November, remember. We've still got the local elections. August 6th, there's a lot of millages up. The Stars millage is one of the millages that are up in the city, on the city ballot.
I just want you to know that they said, and this is coming from, I think, Saginaw County Health Department, during mass COVID vaccination clinics at Sears Automotive, you guys rocked.
Oh, thanks.
So congratulations.
Hey, I remember. Oh man, you try not to think about the pandemic stuff, and once in a while somebody brings it up. You're like, oh yeah, I remember us trying to figure out how to get people around the city just to these vaccination points safely and not around others, but
August 6th.
August 6th is the date for the election. The Stars millage is up. It's the same as it was the last time we went up in 2020. It's at 3.2 mils. That'll generate about $1.8 million a year for this next year for Saginaw.
What does that money help you do, or what does it sustain?
That money, without that money, Stars does not exist.
Okay.
Flat out, because that money is used as a local match towards state dollars that come in and the federal dollars that come in.
So these are dollars to remain open.
Yes. If without, so spending $1 of that city tax will bring us in potentially up to $4 from the federal government, and then another possibly 30 to 50 cents from the state. You don't spend that local dollar, you don't get any of the federal and state dollars.
Right.
They're gone. They just don't flow to you. So transit's one of those weird things. The more you spend, the more you get back. So we do leave money on the table with the Fed and the state. We've been pushing hard for them to step up. We did not want to ask for more millage dollars from the city because 3.2 mils, as I've discussed, is a high millage, and I'd like to see it go down over time.
Wow.
Especially if we can share the load with the rest of the county.
That's something that you don't hear very often. People saying that they hope the millage goes down, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, if you spread it out to the county,
then it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
1 mil countywide generates $5 million.
Wow.
3.2 mils for the city generates $1.8 million. That's enough to keep us treading water. Our plan is this, and this is what I'm asking the residents of the city as well to work with me and have some faith in Stars based on our what we've demonstrated over the last few years. And that's we want to go for this millage this year. If it passes, that'll keep us funded for the next 5 years potentially.
Okay.
Our goal is by 26 to have a countywide initiative to move to a county form of financing, turn off the switch to that city millage, and turn on one to either a county millage or some other funding source that works to fund Stars, to keep doing what it's doing in the city, growing and getting that frequency, helping the city grow, generate more income for the whole county. Also, you get county-wide routes. We need stuff out to Bridgeport, to Frankenmuth and Birch Run. We need stuff connecting us out to Flint. We need direct connections.
Because that's where jobs are as well.
We need to also, hey, maybe we work out well enough that we're
Grocery
bringing
stores.
people into work here too.
Right.
There's that option too.
Absolutely.
And
there's some great things on the horizon. So if we can start bringing people from there to here, that's an amazing.
Medical Diamond's going to need it, right?
Absolutely.
So looking at all that, but that's that's right now the vision is we renew this millage here. We got some buffer time in case the county stuff doesn't pan out by 26, but if it does, we can move over to that. But
that's an additional 3.6 roughly $1 million that's available.
That would be at 1 mil, and we have no idea what that would be and everything right now.
Right.
We're just having talks about even for the county to join on and say let's make a real countywide authority. But step one is, of course, keep Stars alive.
Yeah.
And so I can't stress enough, we have 140 probably employees at Stars whose jobs depend, and they're mainly Saginaw residents whose jobs depend on that millage. And everybody we transport, their jobs in that case also may depend on that millage. So it's extremely crucial that it pass. When we went in 2020, I think citywide, we had anywhere in each district from 60 to 70% plus of the vote. So I'm not like sweating or nervous about it. The city's been pretty clear, and the residents and our riders, they think we're doing a better job now than even in the past. And we continue to keep saying, all right, keep supporting us, and we will keep trying harder. We will not get complacent at Stars and just say, you know what, status quo is good. It's never good enough.
I'm going to say this, Glenn, the times that I've seen you in spaces, and sometimes we've seen each other and we just kind of nod, and sometimes you haven't seen me, but I would listen to the conversations that you were having. And I know some people aren't going to want to hear me say this, but I'm saying it anyways. One thing that has always been a part of your conversation is that you understand who is important in your pie, and you're continually making sure that access for Saginaw residents is at the forefront of everything that takes place in this community.
That's the crux of my job, right?
And so I appreciate, sometimes people get jobs and they lose sight of the things that are important. But I want to thank you for continually keeping that in mind, because our residents need that. And this transportation piece is one of those things where you may not use it, but you have to recognize, for the betterment of the community and for those who do, that we have to sometimes make decisions based upon the entirety
Mhm.
of the community and not just we ourselves.
Well, I'd get on my soapbox and be like, it affects everybody,
Everybody.
whether or not you're directly using it.
Yep.
If you're an employer and you got somebody stocking your shelves, how did they get there?
Yeah.
You know, if you got to pay them more because they've got to support having a car, you know, as opposed to they don't even need a car because transit's that well, you know, cost of living in Saginaw is pretty low.
Man, cars are being put on pause right now
Exactly.
with the interest rates and things. So you know, I mean, it's a challenge. But let's turn. So August 6th, we're on the Millage for Stars is what you're asking. Let's support what we currently have to keep what we have going, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got to see that going unless you want to see the bus system shut down, right?
Okay.
So I think everybody can agree, you know, that I think right now, even people who aren't anti-tax or whatever can understand it would be a big blow to the city to see stars fall.
Yeah, every city needs public transportation. It's necessary. So as we look and we think a little bit more aspirational, as we look toward the future, there's some other big ideas and plans that you guys have going on. Let's talk. We got a few minutes left here. Let's talk about some of those things, Glenn.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, you mentioned the medical diamond.
Yep.
We've talked a little bit about the need to go countywide, and we're hearing that from city residents too. We need to get out and around. A few years ago, when the pandemic hit and we started getting these CARES Act dollars, we were thinking optimistically, well, what if we have some of this money left over at the end of the pandemic? What
Right.
kind of things could we do? There's none of it's left. Oh man,
Yeah.
we're in worse shape as far as that financially than before because everything ended up costing more.
Yeah.
And we spent it all. But back then we were like, you know, maybe. So I'm always planning contingency plans in my head, and I saw this old train station over at Potter Street, and I thought, you know, hey, there's something historic there. I know people were still in possession of it and
Yeah.
trying to maintain it. I didn't know much about it. And so we started, you know, doing a feasibility study on relocating Stars to Grow. Our garage at Stars is cramped. If you're down at our bus station, it's the worst setup ever. You got to back the buses out onto Warren or Johnson to get out. It's a nightmare. So I'm going, you know, for umpteen reasons, we could use a new facility. Well, since we started doing that, it's wonderful that we got the study done because now we're talking about the medical diamond.
Yeah.
We're talking about countywide service.
Yeah.
These types of things necessitate a much larger transit than Stars is. And so as we're growing in Saginaw, it's like Kismet, and it's a mutually beneficial thing hitting on the transit side. Like, so we've got to grow together. We can't plan as a city to put in this medical diamond and not look at things like public transit infrastructure.
I mean, and people, and this is the thing, this investment of dollars with the medical diamond is literally has the potential to bring billions into our community.
Yes.
And so with that, with those
And I think
billions,
the
we're
price
also going to,
tag- the price tag on the medical diamond, and this was only what part of the project,
Yeah.
was something like 250 million, 200 million.
yeah, I'm thinking a little bit higher than that, but
they're
anyways,
always
yeah,
higher,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And I think that was just like a core part. I
Right.
don't know the numbers, so nobody quote me on that.
Right.
And if any city council members are sitting there listening, or anybody from the medical diamond people, like I mean, no offense if I misquoted something, but the Potter Street project we're looking at for the whole transit side of that district would be $100 million. It'd be about 20 to 25 probably to fix the station up. And then the rest of that money would be building new facilities, including a parking ramp with, I want to put in a daycare and a grocery
I saw
store.
that, yeah.
And I've been saying this for years.
Yeah.
We're going to do it. We're going to do this. So daycare and a grocery store, some other retail space, maybe that Stars owns and it can lease out to local mom and pop type of shops to get a business off the ground. You know, maybe we can have something down there that grows again with that area. I see in the future also that Northeast District, I'd like to see a $1 billion investment in that.
Hey, so would I.
Economic redevelopment is the new thing, right? Everybody's talking about economic development, and we're talking about the need for a hotel in Saginaw. Hey, man, I know a great spot where we could put one. It's between Potter Street and Fitzhugh well, you know.
No, but this is the thing, because and when I looked at your plan, it kind of undoes or kind of meets a need when they put that 675 straight middle through the middle of that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It blocked it off from services. And so your thought is, hey, let's put Stars over here with these other services that are needed in this community, and draw the people into the community. Yes. So I like that. That is about 50 years in the making that it should have been.
I can't think of anybody else who this would work for. Since we're a public service, wherever we go with our bus station, we are bringing over 1,000 at least people through that area per day. No private business is going to set up over there because there's no foot traffic.
Absolutely.
But we get to go in first. We can, use these public funds, build this thing up, reinvigorate an area that's, I think a lot of people have a lot of sentimental feelings toward in this city, and attract the private businesses to move in, and then you incent them, right? Now there's foot traffic. Do you want to come in and build and make money? All right, then work with us in the city and the county on economic redevelopment out here. Let's get some housing in. Let's get some fixed cost housing.
One of our Mr. Bull said that everything you're talking about city planning is something that's been lacked for 30 years. That was my thought. But in your position, a part of what you do is city planning has to be, you have to look at where we are.
Work in concert with each other. If we're not working in concert with each other, things are going to fall apart.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to trip over each other. Plans aren't going to line up, and you're going to have conflict.
And so this particular situation is one in which you guys have kind of jumped out there and said, hey, we have this amazing idea. We need you all to buy into what we're doing.
Yes.
Because it ties into the overall view of our community. And I think that is the other piece that has been missing for a long time. Those transformative ideas. We can complain about what we don't see, but when we come in with people who have transformative ideas, how do we then bring this thing into fruition? So I think that's great. I'm going to give you 30 seconds, Glenn, to really just share. Time goes by so fast here. What is it that you would want to leave the people with as we conclude this segment of Straight Talk?
I'd say, if you're a Stars rider, if you're not a Stars rider, if you know anything about what we do in the city of Saginaw, if you've heard we've been getting better, that's great. I love it. But my promise is this is going to keep getting even better. I don't know what's going to be like exactly in 1 year from now, but hopefully I'm able to sit here and tell you that we went through, learned a lot from this cup, and refashioned the roots. And if we do our job right, we'll see wages go up in Saginaw. We'll see better services. We'll see more access. And that's what I want people to know is we are dedicated at Stars to making sure that the people of the city of Saginaw are supported.
Thank you so much, Glenn Steffens. Stars, I want to see all of that stuff because it gives that northeast side of Saginaw something to be hopeful for. Everything isn't pushed down just to the medical down, but you're expanding the reach and the growth of the entire community, which I absolutely love. Thank you guys for continually tuning in to Straight Talk. We thank you guys, and as always, take care of yourselves and each other. God bless you, grace and peace.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen by the host, its guest,